Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's good to have you with us today. Not much for an announcements right now, other than Bishop Kenitha is visiting our district this week, and places close by on Friday will be Clear Lake and Fort Dodge. If you need particulars, just give the office a call. So we continue to be in our series of the path of a disciple. The last couple Sundays we've talked about the call and our response. So now we're starting to get into the implications. And this week in the 10th chapter of Matthew, we find that the implications of discipleship are messy, scary, gloomy. One of the nice things about Jesus, right? Jesus is always honest with us. He never tells us that being a disciple is going to be a cakewalk. He always is upfront about the struggles. And so for our reading this week, he begins, a disciple is not above the teacher. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher. And that's what we strive to be as a disciple of Jesus, is to be like Jesus. Right? We begin with who we are, and we are enough the way we are to begin that process. But it is a process. To be a disciple is a continuing process of learning and growing. In the Wesleyan circles, we call that sanctification. This growing to be more like Jesus. But Jesus reminds us then of the implication, right? To be like Jesus also means to risk suffering like Jesus. To be hated, to be persecuted, to be oppressed, to be put on a cross. Right? That's one of the things that we risk, right? And Jesus is open and honest with us that that's where we're going. Faithfulness, discipleship is messy business. But Jesus also in this 10th chapter tells us, right, that the hairs on your head are all numbered. That God notices when a sparrow dies and you have more value than a sparrow. That Jesus gives us this reassurance that there's really nothing to fear, because it's God holds the power, God holds the authority over our souls, not our fellow human beings. But this reassurance, right, we need to be clear, comes in the midst of our suffering and not instead of. The discipleship takes us into scary places and scary people. But God walks alongside of us throughout it all. Right? So be prepared. We'll talk about the messiness of life. We'll talk about the fears of life. But Jesus walks us through. We'll see you soon.